So a lot of people like playing ARPGs like Diablo because you get to try a lot of different builds. And one of the better builds I think out there for Barbarian, I think it's one of the better builds because it's so easy to transition into. HotA Hammer the Ancients is one of those skills that, a lot of guys recommended leveling up. If you're playing a whirlwind barbarian and you're looking for another build before you scrap your barbarian because you're frustrated with the way how whirlwind works, you watch my other video, you watch a lot of other videos, and trying to make the damn thing work, whether it's lacking damage, your cooldowns are just not up, it takes too long to get into the late game. I highly recommend just try Hammer of the Ancients because the damage is there. It's so easy to get the build going, and one of your primary aspects that makes the build go, you can get it from Sunken Ruins. It's a dungeon. It's a dungeon aspect. The way that the skill also scales off Max Fury based on the node, it's a beginner skill, it's an end game skill, it's just one, like, it's all in one. It's just really, really good. So this is going to be a little different than all the other build guides you see on YouTube. I'm not going to go over it in its entirety because I'm still transitioning over from Whirlwind into HotA, and it's still doing really well with what this is. And this is more as a general sense to like help you understand why HotA is doing the damage that it does, why it's so strong, and also some gearing choices that I've learned ever since I made that whirlwind video. So on the left side, you notice that a lot of barbarians, myself included, are not running rubies anymore. Rubies do not scale with the life that you get from gear and also from your skill tree. So you see this 1120 max life that you see on these pants, they don't scale with rubies. So ultimately, rubies are very weak. They're pretty flat in terms of additive, and you get much more survivability gemming sapphires and topaz. Because the way barbarians work, you get so much unstoppable from your Warcry and your Wrath of the Berserker, and also I'm running some wonky legendary aspect choices. I have a pretty decent unstoppable uptime, so topazes don't do that much for me because I'm not CC'd often. So the damage reduction while fortified I think is very strong because of this one paragon node up here. Every 75 fury you spend, gain 12% of your maximum life as fortify, and with HotA Unbridled Wrath, which is the last skill node here, you're spending a lot of fury and you're almost max fortify like all the time because there's some other stuff that's working in right now. And yeah, so I learned to actually start stacking max life. So on some of these pieces, max life here, this is a pretty decent A14 max life on rings, max life on helmet. This is definitely one of the lowest rolls, and I mentioned in my last video, cooldown reduction on helmet and amulet, some of the other content creators also agree, are very, very strong. No matter what build you play, cooldown reduction is just it's just the best stat you can really get on your pieces. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get cooldown reduction on my amulet. Like if I find another one, I'm switching over right away. Look how doggy poo poo drop in my doo doo this amulet. It's just not that great. So, some of the lessons I learned, again, +4 core skill on your gloves is a must. It just does so much for your build. You're doing so much damage. Here, it's a decent crit chance roll and a decent attack speed roll. For HotA, you're spamming your skills a lot more. So this imprint, basic damage, increase your core skill, not that strong, not that good. But still, I'm just equipping it. I'm just testing it out. I actually realized because the way Barbarian works, you actually don't have that many decent offensive aspects to slot for your build. With the exception of, I think, skills do increased damage based on primary resource, and some other ones. I feel like it just doesn't do. You don't really have that many options. There's better ways to optimize the build, but I think this video I just want to go over how to transition to a new build, and to show off some of the gear I have here. Here I have some weird choice boots here, 75% movement speed. Like again, this works in town, so I really like it. Resource generation. So these are like whirlwind rings in a sense, but I just transitioned. I copied it over to my HotA build. So I'm able to play HotA right now, and Rallying Cry, War Cry, Challenging Shout. It's the same package. Here's the boring but pretty important part of the video where I go over the skill tree. Lunging Strike, get Berserking. This part's super important as Berserking really amplifies your damage. Hammer the Ancients. This node is what is causing this whole build to do the insane amounts of damage. When you increase your max fury, this scales in such a crazy way with the rest of the build. You have your vulnerability pressure point. This point is very important. I don't think this is negotiable. This is probably one of the stronger keynotes you can have in a build. Here, for me, I'm going for max life here. The shout package, generate more fury. Here's I'm not the inventor of this build. These are the nodes that I'm using right now that I really like. Hamstring, very important. Here, spend fury to heal. If you find your survivability be okay, you can get rid of these points, put them somewhere else. Zerking and Unbridled Rage. The paragon here, don't even follow this. Like, this is something I use for whirlwind, but that's just how strong the build is. Like, I'm using a paragon board that's not even meant for this build, and it's just, God, it's just so strong. What is the fire resist? Alright, that's worthless. And it's just so strong. Like, why is this build so strong with the way it is? You know, I've been playing whirlwind so long, I didn't realize that a build this strong as that was actually out there. It's just crazy. For those that are still watching, you realize that this build, similar to the whirlwind build, is still running the triple shout package. It's just so strong that you don't want to give it up. I feel like a lot of builds are gonna keep having it this way, where you're just running the triple shout package. I feel like part of it is Rallying Cry just does too much for one skill. Movement speed, resource generation, unstoppable. Unstoppable by itself is just insane in Diablo 4. Well, me when I'm having a good time and not dying. Woo! Me when I get one shot by ranged mob. No. When you're playing Diablo 4, you actually, like, your number one enemy is CC. As you get into some of these higher dungeons, a lot of these mobs are just going to be carrying multiple types of CC, especially freeze, and you really need unstoppable in order to have a good time. If you are a god gamer, then why are you even watching this guide? You're good to go, right? You don't have to tell me, like, oh, you don't need unstoppable. Go have fun, man. This video is not for you. But for the rest of us, we need it, man. Like, the CC is just out of control. And also, the damage from white mobs, like the trash mobs, the minions, you know, the average jobbers, it's just so high. Most of my deaths when I'm doing dungeons is not from an elite mob killing me. It's like the most random white mob blasting me with a stray arrow off screen. And it's so silly. It's such a silly thing that Diablo 4 is. So here I want to talk about some of the weapons I'm using. The one-handers I kind of just keep from Whirlwind. I feel like a lot of Diablo 4 has this homogenization aspect of gear where you're just stacking crit damage, vulnerable damage, main stat, and then something else. A lot of times you can stack close damage to enemies. It's very, very simple. You just get those things on your gear, and you know, all classes benefit from this. It's not just barbarians. But more importantly, crit damage and vulnerable damage scales way harder than some of the other damages, because the other damage falls into a bucket, so they become more additive. It's a much bigger pool of bonuses so you're getting less mileage from other damage bonuses compared to crit damage and vulnerable damage. I feel like damage buckets can be its entire own video. The video that Wudijo made explaining damage buckets, so I'm just gonna link in the description. So here you notice at some points the damage is a lot lower. That's one, it's not applying vulnerable, and two, you don't have berserking on. So you kind of want to make sure that those two factors are always up when you're about to burst down whatever it is you're fighting. To apply vulnerable, you just keep smacking with your core skill and just pray to heavens. And then for berserking, either use berserk, or you just use warcry, or just keep smacking lunging strike until it procs. So pretty much. Yeah, for all those people out there that were playing Whirlwind and you're struggling and you want to just swap over to something quick and easy and you don't have to redo your entire paragon tree, try out Hammer the Ancients. I think you'll be surprised how well it does. You know, don't give up on your Barbarian. there's also broken stuff that's happening, but I feel like by the time I cover that in a video, it's gonna get nerfed. So, but yeah, there's a broken bleed build. Thanks for watching, and all my barbarians out there, we unga, so we bunga.